Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. We have a special edition of OneTrust LinkedIn Live, making an impact with our DE&I Council and our core grant recipients for Giving Tuesday. We're here to learn a little bit more about the projects that our partners will work on with the grants that OneTrust has funded. And before we go into that, I'd like to jump in and share a little bit about what Giving Tuesday is. So, for those of you that may not know, Giving Tuesday is an unofficial holiday that is on the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. And although we don't celebrate Thanksgiving all over the world, Giving Tuesday has become a global event over the last 10 years. And this is a day to give back by either making a donation or sharing your time and talents through volunteering. And last year, globally, there were almost $2.5 billion given on Giving Tuesday. So it's really great to see what impact we can have when we all come together. So I'd like to start off by just going around our virtual room and have everyone introduce themselves and what organization they're from and where they're calling in from, because we've got everybody all around the world. So just going to my right, Will, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, of course, no problem. Hi, everyone. So my name's Will Savage. I'm with the Felix Project, and we are a food waste and redistribution charity based in London.
Thank you so much. Kwame?
Yes, and thank you for having us, and thank you for the donation. It's going to really help us do much more work. Kwame Johnson, President and CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters Metro Atlanta, and we're all about defending the potential of young people through mentorship. And when you say defend potential, you acknowledge that potential is already there. It's our responsibility as adults to defend it.
Great. Thank you so much. And then, Sophia, would you like to go next?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sophia Mohammed, and I am the Vice President of Programs at Black Girls Code. And Black Girls Code is an organization that's really on a mission to center Black girls as the solution for leadership issues of today in multiple industries, but particularly in technology. So while we're based in New York and Oakland, I'm calling in from the deep south of Mississippi.
Great. Thanks so much, Sophia. I'm actually based in Oakland, but I'm calling in from New York today. So I'm really looking forward to learning some more about the volunteer opportunities in Oakland for me with Black Girls Code. And then last but not least, we've got Richard. Would you like to say hello?
Yes, I do. My name is Richard Hicks. I'm the CEO of InspiredEDU. We are based in Atlanta, Georgia, and we provide equitable access to technology and training. And I want to say good morning to everyone. Looking forward to the discussion, but also thank you, OneTrust, for your generosity. This grant will help us to grow our work within the greater Atlanta area.
Thank you so much. And for everyone joining us on the call, I've seen a couple of comments come through. We'd love to hear where you're listening in from, so feel free to type that in on our chat. So to get us started, I've got a question for Kwame from Big Brother Big Sister. Mentorship can take many different forms, informal mentorship, workplace mentors, educational mentors. I know I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for the support and guidance that I've received throughout my lifetime. Can you tell us all a little bit more about the importance and impact of mentorship, and how does your program support children reach their fullest potential?
Yes, thank you. Mentorship is super important. All of us can relate to it. And what's special about it is all of us can do it. And that's what I want to encourage people to do on this call today is whether you formally mentor someone through us or another organization, or just reach back and help somebody at your job or in your local community. I think we all need to lean back and help people. Mentorship has played a huge role in my life. I would not be the CEO of Big Brothers and Big Sisters if I didn't have mentors pour into my life. I was a young person at the age of 17. I went to prison for making a lot of bad decisions. And my life was almost over, but I had, my track coach bring me my schoolwork so I could finish my high school diploma behind bars. I had different people lean into my life to help me get to where I am today. So it's super important. And as I speak about the work of Big Brothers Big Sisters, what I talk about is the results. So 99% of our kids never touch the criminal justice system. 97% graduate high school on time with a plan. So the results are there. And this is all about relationships. And I tell people all the time, relationships change people, not programs. Too often we think programs are what we need more of, but we need more relationships. And that's what we do every day. We serve about 1,200 young people all across Atlanta that come out of all kinds of situations. And I've just seen so many young people that are called littles in our program go to the next level. But there's also impact on the bigs. So the bigs are the adults. I'm a mentor to a young man named Anthony. His father died when he was 2, and I'm not coming in to be his father, but just a guide and a resource. And I'm a big, right? But I get more out of it than I put in. And all the bigs you talk to in our program will tell you that they actually feel better. They get promoted on their jobs. They're more healthier. They're better people because they're pouring into others. So that's the power of what mentorship does. It's a two-way thing. It's not a one-way, which is so special. And the last piece I will say is really solving problems. Atlanta, along with a lot of other cities, are plagued with crime and challenges that have been going on. A lot of it's come out of COVID. I saw a news, article this morning about the smash and grabs all around the city and around the country. The young people are getting involved in some of these things. And here in Atlanta, we have a challenge around what's called water boys. And these are young men who are hanging out on the corner selling water. They're entrepreneurs at heart, but in some cases getting in trouble. So we're actually working with the city of Atlanta to mentor those young men, to give them alternatives, to give them tap into that talent they have and redirect it in a positive way. So we're doing a lot of great work around mentorship. Love to get folks more involved, not just here, we're all around the country, so you can plug in. But mentorship is very special to me.
That's great, Kwame. Thank you so much. I really liked how you touched upon how mentorships are not only impactful for the children and teenagers that you work with, but the impact that it can have on those that are acting as a big brother or a big sister, and how we can learn so much from the individuals that we serve or work with, and those can be our greatest teachers. So my next question is for Sophia. Black women are underrepresented in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM, as it's well known as. So when it comes to coding and R&D, can you tell us about the importance of representation and diversity in technology and STEM as well? And what is Black Girls Code? What are you doing to address this?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So when we talk about the underrepresentation of Black women in tech, it's also important to understand it in the context of the underrepresentation of Black women in different sects or different areas of life, right? And we know that the underrepresentation of Black women in tech is part of a series of racial and gender disparities that exist in America and across the world. We see this disparity in education. For example, Black students are 2 times as likely to attend high poverty schools than white students, which impacts the quality of their education. And specifically, since the pandemic started, March 2020, students of color have experienced almost twice as much of unfinished learning than white students. So there's an education disparity, which bleeds into the underrepresentation of Black women in technology. And then there's also another disparity around even discipline in schools, where Black girls are 5 times more likely to have a suspension at least once compared to white girls. And in New York, particularly where we have a chapter there, the odds are even greater. So these disparities in education and also just around discipline contribute towards just overall gender representation in different sectors, particularly in technology. And girls and women are grossly underrepresented in tech, and which is even more true for Black women. So Black Girls Code, our programming really seeks to close this opportunity gap for Black girls and to establish an equal representation in the tech sector. We deeply, deeply believe that Black girls are the way, they can lead the way for stronger economies and even more equitable societies. So our vision and our mission is to reach 1 million girls, Black girls, by 2040. And we're doing that by creating a special place for Black girls. BGC is a space where they can experience a community while also exploring the complex world of technology. Not only do they experience like community amongst their peers, but they also meet volunteers and they have mentors. They also just get to experience the community beyond their peers, just throughout the whole tech industry. So it's really beautiful to see the power of community at Black Girls Code and how it impacts the trajectories of our students. And ultimately, our goal is to fight against these disparities that exist.
That's great. It's interesting, looking at it from so many different approaches and to figure out what is causing this lack of representation. Because I think sometimes we think, okay, here's one solution, but really we need to look at what are all the causes and how can we address those? I do have one quick follow-up question for you, Sophia. Can you tell us where there are Black Girls Code chapters? I know you've got a couple different locations.
Oh, yes. We're grateful to have 14 chapters in the US, and then we have 1 chapter in South Africa. So in the US, Oakland, New York, Seattle, Los Angeles, Memphis, Atlanta, there's a list. The best thing to do is to go on our website, blackgirlscode.org, and click on the tab that says chapters, and you will see all of the 14 chapters in the US. We're always wanting volunteers. So you could also sign up to be a volunteer through our website, and you'll be able to get more information on how to get involved.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I know we've got a couple OneTrust offices where you've got chapters. So New York, Oakland, and Atlanta. We've got some talented coders that might be able to come and meet with your chapters. I think my coding knowledge is limited to MySpace coding. So I don't know if that dates me a little bit, but
I was amazing on MySpace too. So don't worry, you're not the only one. But you don't even have to have a technology background to be involved in Black Girls Code. And I think that's also like a myth that needs to be demystified, is to get into tech, there's also a lot of non-technical roles in technology, right? So our goal is, yes, to expose girls to the technical skills, but it's also the connections, the networks. There's so many things that there's so much room to make impact in technology, even if it's not through the technical aspects of coding.
Great, yeah. I'm definitely a non-technical person in the tech space. My dad always asks me how I managed to work for a tech company when I struggle with the smart TV remote. But my next question is for InspiredEDU. So for Richard, access to technology and digital literacy is essential to student success. And the pandemic has made this digital divide even more apparent. Can you tell us about some of the barriers that students face in accessing the technology that they need to thrive in this new world that we're living in, and what InspiredEDU is doing to address this?
The work that we've been doing in this space is not new to the community. It has been around for 14 years. The thing that the pandemic did was pull back the curtain as to how we hadn't addressed it the right way. We have seen barriers around this sort of work in having resources to be able to go in and do simple things with our jobs. The first thing we get issued is a laptop and an email address and all these things that are technology related. But when we go into the community, under-resourced community, it's not the same playing field. And when the pandemic first struck in the spring and hit us hard, it was kind of like a question around, why is this happening? Why are we seeing that there's no, there's no technology in the community? We've done all these other things, but we didn't do it right. So that's the road that we had traveled, and wanting to address it is a Herculean effort. And so with InspiredEDU, being able to focus on that equitable access to technology and training, and digital literacy is now at the heart. I've been screaming at the top of the mountain saying, if you all don't do this right, we're going to have a problem. And we got one now, and it's been existing. It's now that we have to dive into it. And we have a number of programs that we do within InspiredEDU to eliminate those barriers. That's the biggest thing. Stop putting up those barriers. Let's eliminate them. Let's eliminate those barriers. What technology resources you have that are laying around the house or at your company is not junk. It's not junk. Pay it forward. Pay it forward, because we have a community that's wanting to get into the same space that we are. We have students that are wanting to go from where they are in whatever life they're living to sitting at a desk at OneTrust. It's not far-fetched to them, but they got to have that exposure, and you got to eliminate those barriers if you plan on eliminating some of the problem. It's going to take a whole comprehensive effort, because we're in this battle of good versus evil when it comes to this stuff. We are classic battle that we have to continue to face, and we got to be able to get the people engaged, get the training, get the things that we give to our military to the community. That's just a simple thing that we can do easily. In InspiredEDU, what we're doing is providing that avenue. This laptop or tablet that's laying around your house, we're giving it a second life. We're putting training in it, because that training takes it a bit further. We don't want it to become an expensive paperweight. We want to put training around it so it can go a little further, so that it can help not only provide this student with the educational resources that they need to be able to access their grades and do some of their homework assignment, but it also makes that family a part of the workforce, because other development that can take place within that. And seeing this work for 14 years and wondering why, this simple concept is not taken as seriously was kind of baffling. But now that the pandemic has heightened and sent this into overdrive, we can honestly address some of these issues, train some of our under-resourced families that can actually sit at some of these companies and try to build our community up. That's the only way we're going to be able to move forward organically, is being able to address this sort of issue around digital literacy and stop kind of sweeping it under the rug. InspiredEDU, we are not going to sweep it under the rug. We're going to continue to kind of highlight that we need to do things around digital literacy to kind of amplify the need. And that's what we're going to continue doing. And eliminating barriers is what InspiredEDU is going to do long term.
Great, thank you. I know when the pandemic started, I remember, and when they started sending the kids home to, resume classes online, I just remember thinking to myself, when I was a kid, we had one desktop computer that the whole family used, and we all took turns using it. And if I had a paper to write for school, I would go to the computer lab at school or the library if I couldn't use the computer at home. And so I just couldn't imagine, students that, maybe if you had 2-3 kids at home, maybe one in elementary school, middle school, high school, and everyone having to, balance who gets the computer, who gets the laptop. I just couldn't imagine what that transition would look like. So the work that you guys are doing really it's been important, as you said, for the last 14, 15 plus years, but really right now there's just such a need to bridge that gap. And I have one question for you about your digital literacy program. For my dad, if you're watching, I'm hoping that you can sign up for that, so I don't have to be your digital literacy coach anymore. But are those classes available just for students, or are they available for carers or parents as well to support students?
So we have a particular curriculum when it comes to students, and we transform our technology into what we call home learning centers. So these home learning centers, we have a curriculum that we actually designed for specific training when it comes to students. And the adult digital literacy, when it comes to the parents, we do a more basic, comprehensive deep dive into how to utilize Office, how to utilize email. They can be kind of translated for children as well, but we give them a little bit more of a challenge because kids like to challenge their minds. So we build that sort of network with them so that they can actually have some of this sort of basic training, but then take them on to things such as STEM, coding and things like that. Like the kids can actually learn how to develop apps through our STEM pipeline program. So we work to build the kid up a little bit more so that they can be in that pipeline. And the parents, we give them that basic knowledge so they can be a partner. So we want them to be a partner or adult learning partner. We want them to be a partner with their student so that they can help them to learn, because we see that the best way to get that sort of learning to continue to move forward, all of us have some story that we have hidden, that someone has taken an interest in us and pushed us to these categories that we're in or these careers that we're in. We want to be able to pay that forward with the community so that these adults that they're feeling like they're getting all of these sort of learning opportunities can actually be able to invest it in their student.
That's great. Thank you so much. And last but not least, we have Will from the Felix Project. Food insecurity was a major issue that was important for our UK team when we were selecting the nonprofit for our London grant recipient. And, during the pandemic, excuse me, one second. My mom told me I would end up talking my voice out, and I have done just that. But our UK team thought that food insecurity was a really big issue that we wanted to focus on. And, footballers like Marcus Rashford have shone a light upon this. And, it's not just something that has been a problem during the pandemic, but years before as well. Can you tell us a little bit about your project that's focusing on food insecurity and also the role that DE&I plays?
Yeah, of course. So the project itself, we were founded in March 2016, so just over 5 years ago, to really try and tackle the issue of food poverty and food insecurity in London specifically. So as you mentioned, it's not an issue that has crept up because of the pandemic, but the pandemic has certainly sort of exacerbated that issue. So when the charity was founded, some research was undertaken, and it was found that there was about 1.5 million people in London who were living in food poverty or food insecurity, as well as 400,000 children who were going to school hungry. And, the thought process was not that, this issue doesn't exist because there's a lack of food necessarily. One of the issues is that there was a lack of access to that food. And one of the huge barriers to that was just the amount of food waste that was generated each year. So when we were sort of establishing our ways of working effectively, the mission became to work with the commercial food industry to rescue surplus food that would otherwise be going to waste, and redistribute that to organizations and communities that needed it. And that's what we were doing then, and it's what we're doing now as well, just on a slightly larger scale. So the pandemic has played a role in sort of accelerating the growth of the organization, I would say. So pre-pandemic, we were distributing around 50 tons of food a week. And that was out of 2 depots. So we have depots around the city where food comes in, our volunteers sort it, we put it into categories, and then it's sent out to our partner organizations. During the pandemic, when the pandemic hit, then the numbers of people living in food poverty increased quite dramatically, unfortunately. So we needed to increase the number of people we were able to reach in a time where it was harder to distribute food than it had been previously. And how we did that is we reached out to community organizations to help us actually to identify the people that we needed to support and to help us actually to distribute that food out there. So just to put that into scale, we went quite quickly from distributing around 50 tons of food a week to 250 tons weekly in the pandemic. And that was the equivalent difference. So at the end of 2019, and throughout 2019, we distributed the equivalent of 6.4 million meals. Last year, we distributed the equivalent of 21.1 million. So there was quite a large period of growth that we're still in. So actually this year we're aiming to distribute the equivalent of 34 million meals. So the scale of the operation has grown quite considerably. And that is unfortunately in line with the need. And we know we're only really scratching the surface of that. So we know that the need in London is probably around, well, over 100 million meals a year. And that's where we're sort of striving to get to over the next 4, 5, 6 years. You know, well, it's our long-term ambition, certainly. And the way that we do that, as I mentioned, is by working with the communities that we serve. So we have sort of 500 food suppliers. So we work with, you know, farms, coffee shops, delis, supermarkets, wholesalers. But really, the aim of what we do is to actually service the communities in London. So we currently have relationships with over 980 organisations. So those organisations range from, food banks, homeless shelters, organisations to support refugees and asylum seekers, women's refuges, as well as sort of 150 primary schools across London. But where DE&I plays a role for us is actually, as our growth has accelerated, we've moved into large numbers of new communities. And London is a very diverse city, and we're very proud of that fact as Londoners. But something that we are very aware of is we need to work and understand those communities for us to be able to work with them in the most effective way. And we know that needs to happen sort of throughout our organisation from the top down, really. So what's going to be key for us is to be making sure that we can firstly, you know, educate within the organisation, but also have representation throughout the organisation that has, you know, real life links with the communities in which we serve, and therefore we know that we'll be able to continue the growth that we are on, or continue that trajectory in the most effective way, because we know that in order for us to work with communities in the most beneficial way, we need to have a real understanding of what those communities need, and be aware that each community is different in every area of London, and to actually have that representation within the organisation will be crucial.
That's great. Thank you so much. And, you know, I'm so glad to hear about all the work that you're doing, and 100 million meals is a big target, and it, you know, breaks my heart to think that that's where the need is. But hopefully, you know, moving forward, we can address the causes of hunger and food insecurity, and, you know, and continue to support the great work that the Felix Project is doing to support our London community. So thank you for providing a little bit of insight and background into that.
No
We've got a couple minutes left, and I just want to take 1 minute to well, first, thank everyone for joining us. But now, what can everyone do to get involved on Giving Tuesday and beyond? So we'll just do another round robin where I invite each one of you to share how our audience can either volunteer or donate. And my colleague Alejandra is going to share some links in the chat. So starting off with Kwame, how can people get involved with mentorship?
Well, we'd love to have you. We're here in Atlanta. We have 500 kids on a waiting list that are waiting for mentors, 200 girls, 300 boys. So you can go to our website and learn about the process. This is something anybody can do. I shared the results, and both sides get something out of it. So I encourage you to think about that. We have 30,000 kids waiting across the country. So regardless where you are in the U.S., you can go into your local Big Brothers and Big Sisters office and sign up to be a Big. You go to whatever city you're in, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, type that in, click on Be a Big, and that will explain the process and the steps. But we need 1 year commitment from you and about 12 hours a month, because we know if you come in a kid's life and leave within a year, you could do more damage. So I encourage you to do that. We also do accept C notes. So you can go to our website and make a donation and get involved that way. And I encourage you to follow my journey. You know, this has been a fun ride for me. You can go to KwameJohnsonSenior.com to learn more about my life in the book that I'm working on, which is about mentorship, The Hope Inside. So a lot of different ways you can get connected with us.
Great. Thank you so much. So anybody that has the time to commit to being a big, I highly encourage you do that. And if you don't have time, you can still donate. Next, Sophia, can you tell us how people can get involved?
Yes. So you can get involved with Black Girls Code and to be part of our vision to reach 1 million Black girls by 2040 by either volunteering and or donating. And you can get all that information from our website, blackgirlscode.org. There are 2 tabs at the very top, one for volunteer and one for donation. The donation just goes, that's just goes through the website. And then for volunteer, you sign up and we will contact you around the events that we have in case you are willing to volunteer in person when we have in-person programming or virtually when we continue to do virtual programming. So the commitment is just really to just commit to that particular event that you sign up for. If you want to come back and continue to volunteer, even better. And we really value our long-term volunteers. We call them our core team, and volunteers are really the backbone of Black Girls Code programming. So we really appreciate long-term volunteers, but at the same time also appreciate and are grateful for short-term volunteers as well.
Great, thank you so much. And just another plug, you do not have to be technical to volunteer. So don't let that scare you off.
Correct, thank you for clarifying that.
And Richard, can you tell us how people can get involved with InspiredEDU?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all so much on behalf of the InspiredEDU team, the great team, and the family. Thank you all so much for your support. And you can engage with InspiredEDU at www.iuatl.org. We have various volunteer opportunities that's listed. We have trainings that you can get involved if you want some training. And we also have what we call a Learn at Lunch, and you can listen to our story. One of the things that we ask is for your time. That's the most precious thing in the world. And we want you to hear our story so that you can pass on our story to others so that we can be able to continue to help the community and encourage others to help. And we ask for that from you as well. We also ask if you would love to donate. We do really appreciate your donations as well. So that is an honor to be able to talk to you all, and looking forward to engaging with you in the future.
Great. Thank you, Richard. And just another reminder, if anybody has laptops or tablets sitting around the house, especially after Black Friday deals, if you've gone out and gotten a new one, send your old one their way and they can refurbish it.
Yep.
And then, Will, would you like to close us off and let us know how our friends out in London, how they can get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So volunteers are crucial for us as an organization. So the vast majority of the organization is run by volunteers. So there's always opportunities to come to one of our depots, help us to actually physically sort of load, unload food, put it into categories, and then take it to charities. So you can go out in one of our vans with one of our drivers and actually meet some of the charities and organizations that we support. We recently opened a kitchen in East London, so there's opportunities to go and actually help, cook some food that will eventually be eaten by families in the local area. And we're always happy to take donations. So we know that for every £10 that we receive, we can distribute the equivalent of 61 meals. So there is a sort of real impact that can be made there. So there are definitely 2 ways that you can get involved with the Felix Project.
Great. Thank you so much. And is there a cooking ability or skill level that you need to cook the meals, or is that
no skill level required? There will be a professional catering team to talk you through that. So there's no barriers there.
Okay, great. Just wanted to clarify before I sent some of my teammates that I've seen with a couple of the Tesco meal deals and not bringing homemade lunches. Thank you so much again to all of you for the impactful and meaningful work that you're doing in our communities. And from all of OneTrust, we are so happy and excited to partner with you moving forward and support all that you do. And for everyone joining us on the line, thank you so much for hopping on. And I hope everyone has a great Giving Tuesday and holiday season as we enter that. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.